For years, surgeons have treated scoliosis as a spine problem. Only recently have they started to look at the body as a whole unit. Now, I literally spat out my coffee when I was listening to the Scoliosis Research Society podcast. Yeah, I do listen to that podcast for fun, and you can judge me later. But the reason for my surprise was that I heard that a group of surgeons had won an award for a study they did that looked at a person's knees before operating on their spine. The study is called, and this really is a mouthful, it's called Knee Flexion Compensation in Post-Operative Adult Spinal Deformity Patients, Implications for Sagittal Balance and Clinical Outcomes. And it was published in the Spine Deformity Journal. But the interesting part is it received the Douglas C. Burton Best Adult Spine Deformity Article Award, recognizing its significant contribution to the field. So here's the overview. The study followed 263 patients who had undergone spinal fusion surgery for adult spinal deformity, including scoliosis, and tracked their progress over 2 years. The researchers aimed to determine if patients who relied on bending their knees, knee flexion, to achieve a good posture after surgery experienced worse outcomes compared to those who maintained alignment without knee flexion. Now, they focused on 2 outcomes. Firstly, whether a bent knee posture increased the likelihood of requiring an additional spinal fusion surgery within 2 years. And secondly, how the person felt overall in life after their surgery. Now, the findings were clear. Patients who habitually stood with their knees bent before or after surgery had a poor outcome and a higher chance of needing a second spinal fusion surgery, even if their surgeons got everything right during their first surgery and their spinal alignment was fantastic. But before we get into why people adopt a bent knee position and how you can test for it, I want to go back in time and explain why I was shocked by this podcast. You see, back in 1896, when the good Dr. Andrew Taylor Still first started teaching osteopathy, he noted that the body is a complete unit and must be treated as such. And that is something that still stands true today. Even back in 1912, Dr. Scholl, another osteopath, figured out that putting an insole in a shoe can have a far-reaching impact all over the body, helping people get rid of back pain, hip pain, and even headaches. But why is this knowledge ignored or just not appreciated by the surgeons? Well, that's mainly due to the way the specialism is taught and regulated. You see, unfortunately, surgeons just don't have the time or freedom to be looking at other areas of the body when they have a busy surgical list to deal with, which is a shame because the knowledge is out there and it has been for, centuries. We just need to use it. So why do people start to bend their knees when they stand? Well, the answer is it's often a compensation for changes in their posture due to the scoliosis. See, as the spine curves, it can shift the body's center of gravity, and in order to maintain balance, people may use other joints like their knees to create a more stable base. Over time, this posture becomes habitual, and the knees adapt to this position, making it challenging to straighten them fully. I see this all the time in my clients, who often bend forward at the hips and knees to counteract the forward weight shift caused by an aging spine. But here's what's interesting. One of the study's authors, Dr. Lenke, a leading expert in complex spinal deformity surgery, noted that the current surgical planning software doesn't account for knee flexion. See, as the study showed, this oversight means that even with a well-planned spinal surgery, neglecting the rest of the body's alignment can lead to suboptimal outcomes, including the need for more surgeries in the future. Dr. Lenke did mention that if he had a patient who had an increased knee flexion after surgery, he wouldn't jump to doing a second surgery straight away like the study suggests will be a likely outcome, but instead he would recommend physical therapy. Now, that was music to my ears. But I don't think he went far enough. How about recommending physical therapy prior to the surgery? It would benefit the patient so much, giving them more mobility and more strength to change their own posture, and with use of things like Zoom, could be easily done online from the patient's home. Now, the people I work with may be different from people who underwent the knife in this study, but I still take knee flexion very seriously, and it's something we've been testing for in the scoliosis correction protocol right from its creation about 15 years ago. We also look to see if the amount of bending or flexion of one knee is different from the other, because if it is, this unequal motion can lead to rotation in the pelvis. To me, this adds another dimension of problems to the body that it's already struggling to adapt to the scoliosis. And we know that pelvic rotation is common in people who have scoliosis. So why not correct any differences in the knees while you can? You see, we need to look at this as part of a bigger picture. I often assess the toes, the feet, the ankles, the hips, and even the teeth. Yep, I said teeth. You see, it's all about finding and fixing these little asymmetries that may be affecting your back. Now, whether or not you're having surgery or not, it doesn't really matter. If you can fix them prior to the surgery, then this will help you. All right, let's talk about an easy test you can do at home to check your knee's ability to extend. It's super simple, takes a couple of seconds, and we'll compare one knee to the other so you can see if there's a difference. And I'll walk you through that right now. Okay, all you need to do this test is just an area to sit down in. And before we do this, so you know, the CDC in the US says normal ranges of motion for people aged 45 to 69 is about 1.2 degrees in females and then 0.5 degrees in males. So if you find a difference, you'd need to work on your knees, but also maybe your hips. Well, it's not your hip, your ankles and your hips as well. Okay, so here's the test. Very simple. All you're going to do is sit down, and you can sit up straight if you've got the flexibility, or back if that's a bit easier for you, and then push the back of your knee into the ground using your quad muscles. Okay, so you'll notice that your heel lifts up off the ground like this. Some people it will lift a bit further, some people it might lift at all. Now, if you're flexed, your knee will be here like this, and you won't be able to get your knee down, and you won't be able to get your heel up off the ground. And what we're looking for is, regardless of whether or not you can do that, we're looking for a difference in between the two. So I'm looking at how high my toe can come up on this side, and then how high my toe can come up on this side. Now, I had a knee surgery on this knee years and years ago, and it has a little bit less flexion or extension, sorry, on this side compared to this side. So I need to continue working on this knee. So from the front, it looks a little bit like this. I'll be in this position here, and then I'll lift up one leg like that, and I'll lift up the other leg like that. And I'll lift both at the same time maybe and see which one's different. Now you'll feel some strange sensations around the top of your kneecap, or at least I do, because this is not a regular movement for us, and it really tenses these muscles in the top of the leg quite a lot. At the end of the day, it's all about having options to move. The more options your body has, the more efficiently it can function. And that's why it's important to check things like this knee extension, because those small changes can have a big impact on how your whole body moves. Now, if you found a difference and want to know more about how you can manage your scoliosis from home, then click the link in the description below and you can find out how we can help you.